So let me come back to the insurance thing here because you were talking about offices and office workers that were going to be cut out of the scene here. So remember a couple shows ago, I was reading my part of my new insurance policy here where it was saying it because they won't insure you or anything if there was a civil war, civil unrest, nuclear explosion, terrorism, whatever. Your vehicle is not going to be insured, even if it's confiscated by the military under the use because I forget Obama, he signed that executive order where they can confiscate anything in your house, including your body, your vehicles, whatever. So I talked to my insurance agent, and this is just for anybody out there. The insurance industry used to raise their premiums like about every 3 years or every 4 years, depending on which firm you were with. But she was telling me that they have already standardized that they're going to raise everybody's insurance 5% per year from now, just as a standard. There's no more like wait and then we'll readjust. The problem is there's more disasters, so they say. Prices for materials are going up. Yeah, I understand that too. There's been some pullback a little bit on that. But the vast, at some point, it's going to come to where they're not going to insure certain areas of the country. And at that point, you're talking about on no insurance, and I did the list, ran this down. No banks will be in business because you can't insure a bank from being robbed unless you have that type of insurance. But then the building insurance itself and anything involved in banking and insurance itself, so they're going to put themselves out of business, can't be insured. So anywhere that they decide as a whole to not insure, these areas will go, as they say, dormant, which will greatly affect the economy. This would be auto dealers and homeowners as well. If you're not able to get insurance for your vehicle or for your home, you can't have a mortgage. You can't have a note out on your car. But in these areas that are going to be deemed non-insurable, the entire ecosystem of the economy is going to grind to a screeching halt. Zero insurance in these areas, which will then have these other knock-on effects. And this was the thing, like, what are the other knock-on effects? And nobody knows yet. But they're quickly coming to this point in Florida where there's only 3 insurers that are left out of dozens or even 100 in the early 1990s and late 1990s. There were hundreds of insurance companies. That has been whittled down to 3, and they're all incredibly price gouging. So at the very minimum is going to be a 5% increase across the board for everything moving forward. So these underwriters themselves, so if you're sitting at the desk in an insurance company as an underwriter or as an agent somewhere, your job's already outsourced. But the FYI, this 5% per year is calculated at today's damage rates. And I was like, insurance companies usually invest in very stable yield returns so they know what their forward forecasts are going to be. So treasury bills for the United States, municipal bonds for a city that's going to pay out a certain percentage. These muni bonds and these T-bills that they went on, for a majority of the lion's share, because that is such stable income, is being outrun by inflation. And then some of those bonds have actually gone underwater where they're actually worth less now, because according to my agent, one of the larger portions of investment for, I'm not going to mention the insurance companies, plural, was in commercial real estate. And we already know what's happening to commercial real estate. It's down 40 to 60% in many places. So then you add on top of this inflation running away, the interest accrued on the treasury bills is not anywhere it was supposed to be. These insurance companies are in the hole so deep right now that the only way to possibly make up for the losses are to gouge the customers. And this is the reason that this 5% this year, and she said, it's going to continue at 5% until it doesn't, because they're going to have to try to make up for the losses. And the further the economy goes in a certain direction with commercial real estate and bond yields, the more these insurance companies are going to need to make up those losses by squeezing you and I. And they know that you by law have to have insurance. And at what point does it come out where, you literally can't afford the insurance on your home anymore? She was telling me some policies are going up like $4,000 just for homeowners insurance, doubling in some areas where it was 4, now it's 8. It was 2, now it's 4 or 6. Like that's a huge hard pill to swallow. We covered that one story where it was 13,000 and it went up to like 109,000 over 1 year. Well, this is the same thing. So I've been digging into why these insurance companies are so broke right now. And their only other option is to raise the premiums to try to get the money from their lost investments. They're absolutely, unequivocally, without a doubt, lying to our faces about this disaster zone is going to cost much more money to repair. Well, it's been like that for 20 years rolling up. They understood the costs in these zones that were being damaged. It's always the same areas, predominantly. But for them to come out and say, oh, it just costs more. Well, everybody, is going to cost us more to repair those homes in Florida, so everybody else has to pay more now. That is purely an excuse because of their bad investments. Now, a lot of these insurance companies are going to try to jump in on the Bitcoin wagon, but it's already far too late. Too late for these companies. They don't understand the tech. They don't understand how to leverage against it. It's just, they're too late out on the game right now. And, since you were doing a little research, I'd done too. I did that whole research and report called the Great Bitcoin Grab. Anybody can find that on LinkedIn if you go to David Dubine, or I have it on the Adapt 2030 channel. There was only a certain number of liquid Bitcoin out there, about 2.9 million to 3 million Bitcoin. And I did this on May 15th, which is just about 2 months ago. And how many Bitcoin are available today in liquid supply? Right at 2 million. So a full million Bitcoin out in the liquid circulating supply has disappeared in just 2 months. This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alpha Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. That leaves us 2 million Bitcoin, and all these companies are suddenly on the FOMO. I was watching an interview. I forget who it was. I think it was MOW, last name, forget the first, Jason Moe, was saying that they're on institutional FOMO right now, which is fear of missing out, institutional. It's going to move to sovereign or governmentals, like the United States wants to have Bitcoin reserve, and then it's going to run down into retail FOMO. And once it hits these different levels, the amount of disappearing Bitcoin will take it to levels we've never even thought possible. And at that point, the corporations that were going to try to get in it are going to have to go to Ethereum or Solana or XRP or some other like smaller coin down the way. And because the storage of value is not there, that's doomed to failure. So if the insurance companies can't get the Bitcoin, they're going to jump into Ethereum or they're going to jump into Solana. But in the long term, I guess, veracity of that, it just doesn't sit correctly with what Bitcoin can do. So we sit in this world now where the ill investments of these major corporations are now your problem. They're going to squeeze you because they can't pay their bills. And this is the world we've moved into. So now talk about that, Ransom, where you're saying that jobs are going to be lost and premiums are going up, and now we need to pay for institutional losses. See, this is an institutional loss. These insurance companies, such gigantic, gargantuan, like black holes from their bad choices. And now they want you and me to fill it up. Well, that's institutionalized. That's no different than the communist, taking over all industry. This is going into the borderline nefarious just from the insurance edge of it. So what are other companies that are going to follow the same dark avenues to get their coffers refilled by milking the public until you are absolutely dry? And this is where we sit today in the middle of 2025. So thanks for letting me ramble, man. Toss it on. Where are you at? Mute.
Yeah, I was listening to that thing, and that just plays right into what really that and you're going to hear this more often, it's called the Great Log Off. It's
Mm-hmm.
where all of these people in these giant skyscrapers across the world are going to log off for the last time because they're no longer needed in those positions. And that's a lot of people that really work in there. So now all of those people are going to have to compete with mundane, regular jobs like, I don't know, picking tomatoes, whatever it is. Their degrees will be meaningless because the AI is better, more efficient, faster, and doesn't call into work, doesn't have personal problems, doesn't take maternity leave, doesn't have psychological issues, doesn't have narcotics issues, none of that stuff. And it kind of reminds me of this movie I watched a long time ago, which was, vaguely kind of on the same topic, but it was about people copywriting or selling off their image, their everything about them, their name, their image, their face, to these companies that would then make movies with AI, and everybody just lived down on the bottom ground level, snorting drugs all day, and they had these nannies that walked around taking care of them, basically in these hazmat suits, so that they wouldn't get infected by the fog of drugs that everybody was living. And all the elite that had all their money, they lived up in the sky in these nice blimps. Now that's
The Bitcoin
fictional.
Citadel, like we talked last week, is it underground? Is it an underground facility, or is it a blimp floating in the sky facility?
Right. Well, all of it kind of represents that. And with humanity losing their mind, they're going to have more time to be out there destroying stuff or protesting stuff. There's going to be a lot of people mad at losing their jobs. And then it's going to start like a domino effect. And that's literally what they're calling it, is the great log off. So people from all of these industries where they sit at the other end of a computer terminal for their job, they're just no longer needed.
Please remember civilizationcycle.com, and also buy me a coffee /civilization cycle.